How a Meghan Markle-backed beverage brand broke into national retailers. Taking your brand into a major retailer is a big step. Here's how one fast-growing company, CLEVR Blends, made it happen. Hannah Mendoza knew that running a retail business could be a circus. She saw it firsthand early in her career, she says, working for a retail-forward consumer packaged goods brand and witnessing all the human power needed to make it run successfully. So, when Mendoza, now 33, ultimately co-founded and became CEO of CLEVR Blends, she didn't take the move into retail lightly. CLEVR Blends is a Santa Barbara, California-based functional latte brand offering coffee alternatives that include adaptogens, mushrooms, and more. Mendoza and her co-founder, Roger Coppola, launched the business in 2019 after both found themselves dissatisfied with existing caffeinated drinks. Today, CLEVR Blends has reached 8 figures in revenue and achieved a 518% 3-year growth rate, ranking 984th on the 2024 Inc. 5000 list, all with a scrappy team of 5 employees. The brand counts Oprah as a fan and Meghan Markle as an investor, and this year it finally entered the big circus, first at Target, now with 819 locations, and then Whole Foods, 133 locations. Here's what the CLEVR Blends team learned from bringing their product to these national retailers. Find product market fit. First, Mendoza made the conscious decision to launch CLEVR Blends with a direct-to-consumer business model first. With direct-to-consumer, she felt the team had a better chance at figuring out product market fit than on the shelf at a retailer, she says. That's because they were able to keep the feedback loop as tight as it possibly could have been. They read reviews closely, formulated the products in-house, which they still do, Mendoza says, and for a while even produced the product themselves in a commercial kitchen. And while Mendoza admits that this degree of tightness doesn't scale, she says that early on this gave them the ability to innovate quickly to find what worked. I would rather use direct-to-consumer as a testing ground for that, where we can turn things on and off quickly, she says, after reaching their goal of 100,000 DTC customers and entering a few smaller retailers, including Erewhon and Bristol Farms. Mendoza felt the DTC business was growing and had its own momentum. It was sufficient, she decided, for them to turn their attention to retail. Prepared to handle complexity, Whole Foods actually reached out to the CLEVR Blends team 4 years ago, Mendoza says, but it wasn't until this June that their products were officially on the shelf. During that time, they built up their head count and branding, she says, but also the team's ability to handle additional complexity. Retail operations are no joke, especially if you're also running other channels, she says, pointing to Amazon and DTC or direct-to-consumer as examples. They're entirely new systems with really big consequences if you don't handle them right. There's a lot of jargon. There's complex forecasting to ensure we don't run out of stock. Mendoza needed to make sure that CLEVR Blends had experienced people to help them navigate these new waters, and ultimately hired a consultancy, Golden Thread CPG, to support retail operations, retailer and buyer relationships, and more. The team also focused on setting up a nimble operational supply chain, Coppola says, so that we can flex up or down as needed. For other business owners, the length of this journey is a lesson in thinking ahead. Mendoza says, if you want to go into retail in 2 years' time, you need to start thinking about it now. Consider your packaging and pricing. Mendoza says that since they were entering these retailers as an emerging category, not an incumbent category, the CLEVR Blends team needed to be especially strategic to get customers' eyes on their products. To start, they needed to rethink their price. While CLEVR Blends standard packs with 14 serving bags, cost between $24 and $28, Mendoza says they needed to create a new one under $20 to compete with coffee brands priced around this amount. Other founders should think critically about their price tag architecture well in advance, Mendoza argues. If you price your natural channel product as low as possible, and that's really squeezing your margins, when you come to pitch to Walmart or whoever it is, they're going to want a lower price. And you're not going to be able to afford it, she says. They also switched up their packaging. What worked for direct-to-consumer wasn't going to work on retail shelves, Mendoza says. Consider how many touch points a customer has when they find their brand online versus when they see it on shelf, she says. The CLEVR Blends team worked through trial and error and surveys on customers' response to make immediately clear through their packaging what the product offered, Mendoza says, and that it isn't coffee. Promote the move on social. After entering 500 target locations at the beginning of this year, the CLEVR Blends team witnessed the power of posting about it on social media. Thousands of people liked their announcement, garnering so much support and so much momentum for us, Mendoza says. She believes this paid off on the shelf as well, as numerous customers left comments and sent messages saying they'd purchased the product in store. As a result, she says, the team made sure that with the Whole Foods launch, we also were really creating a lot of content around it and making sure that we were letting people know how big of a deal this was to us. Be patient. Mendoza sees CLEVR Blends' first year in retail as an investment, she says, without the expectation that it will immediately be profitable. Indeed, Jessica Boroy, the Director of Sales Strategy and Planning for Golden Thread CPG, or Consumer Packaged Goods, says that if you're not seeing a loss in year one, there's a good chance that you're not accounting for major expenses. Therefore, Mendoza says she's had to learn to be patient. In the first 3 months, I was so obsessive about looking at our data and our sales numbers, and there's just no point. At that point, she says, too many factors are in flux, and consumers still need time to discover your brand on the shelf. But also, she recommends being cautious about how many doors you enter at once. If you expand too quickly, that could come at a cost. Our strategy has always been deep, not wide, Mendoza says. When it comes to retail, our main success is not how many doors we're in, it's how well we do in those doors.
I want to give a huge shout out to our amazing CLEVR team here at HQ. Without them, we are nothing. All fulfillment crew, lovingly packing your lattes. We've been listening to Brittany on loop since 2019. All very smart, only slightly nerdy digital team, making sure the website doesn't crash again like it did last year. Finally, the glue that literally holds us all together. Our incredible, resilient fulfillment team that have helped make 2023 such a big success. Such a big success.